Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Auto insurance can all seem the same until it comes time to use it. So don't get stuck paying more for less coverage. Switch to USAA Auto Insurance and you could start saving money in no time. Get a quote today. Restrictions apply.
Hi everyone! Welcome back to another episode of Living Well with Janet, where we explore what it means to live well. I'm your host, Janet, a yogi, a meditator, plant-forward eater, and all-around wellness enthusiast. I'm also a second-generation Asian American woman, an experimenter, and a deep thinker. Join me in my conversations and contemplations on the physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, social, and environmental aspects of living well. Before we get into today's episode, I want to share a little announcement reminder. I am going to be traveling to Bali for the first time this September, and I would love if you could come with me. Maybe you've been wanting to visit Bali, but you haven't gotten around to it, or maybe you want to take a trip to somewhere in September, but you don't have time to plan it. This is a great opportunity to come on a week-long trip with myself and a group of 10 to 20 other beautiful souls. We're going to be visiting the Turta Empul Water Temple, a sacred monkey forest, doing a coffee brewing workshop. I'm going to try to squeeze in a yoga class for us. I'm getting excited just talking through some of the itinerary. If you're interested, I'll have a link to the trip details in the show notes, and you can also follow me on Instagram, where I'm going to be sharing updates as the trip approaches. Grab a friend, grab a sister, your mom, your cousin, a partner, make a group trip out of it. This is a great chance to travel without having to do any of the planning because I'm working with Trova Trip, who will take care of all of the logistics for us. Thank goodness. All we have to do is book our flights, and the rest is taken care of. I have gotten some messages from listeners asking me to detail my approach to minimal living. Whether it's from moving around and traveling a lot in my adult years, sampling life in different cities, a desire to leave less of a negative footprint on the planet, a real resonance with the Marie Condo mindset, or a combination of all of the above, I just really love minimal living. The less stuff, the better, and the more minimal and efficient designs are, the more I am drawn to them. That's why I was so impressed when I saw Sung Yoo's interview on CNBC about her essentialist approach to life. Sung is a designer and entrepreneur who, in 2023, after living in New York for 18 years, moved to Santa Monica into a 140-square-foot home, which I think is so cool. Sung, you shared on the CNBC interview that you initially moved from New York to California with a partner. And when that didn't quite work out, you were bi-coastal for a period in New York and also in LA. I'm curious how all of it shook out for you to land in Santa Monica in a tiny home. And this might seem like a random question and a way to start the convo, but it's because I resonate. I, last year moved in with a partner and I had this idea for, how my life would be. And when that didn't work out, I was left with this big open box of so now what? I knew for sure we had discussed I'm going to be moving out. I was where do I want to live? Do I even want to be in LA anymore? So I'm curious if that's the start of what kind of got you out to LA. What made you land in Santa Monica? Why the tiny home? All of that.
So the move was really for us at that time to start a new adventure in a sense. It was actually a very beautiful love story in a sense. We met and we kind of didn't leave each other, and he had actually been living in Germany and I lived in New York, so we were always moving around to different places. So it made sense one day when it was well, where do we want to do life? And it was how about California? And it really wasn't even a long conversation. We just kind of said, okay. And, I kind of really downsized my life and wrapped everything up. I had a design studio at the time as well. And none of those things seemed very tense or difficult for me. It felt very just natural. These are the steps I'm going to take to partake in this next part of my life.
Yeah.
So in that sense, that as much as those are big changes, it didn't feel difficult. And then once we had moved here and then the relationship didn't work out, I wanted to give myself time before just jumping back into my New York life.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, that's home to me.
Yeah.
But I was like, I'm already here, and sort of this idea of the lifestyle in California and all the benefits that it also does have. I was like, I don't know that I've experienced it yet. And also, it was very much now painted by the experience I had within this relationship, right? So I wanted to give myself time. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to give myself 4 to 6 months. And that was like what was in my mind and what I was kind of expressing to people if they asked, like, oh, you're from New York? I'm like, I am. I'm going back in about 4 to 6 months, but I'm checking it out,
Yeah. It's hard, I feel like, when you have those like conversations with people, oh, where are you from? What's happening in your life? And when you're in a point of transition, you're like, I don't quite know how to answer this.
Yeah, exactly.
So the 4 to 6 months, it's a great, like, kind of like, I'm here checking it out and I'm figuring things out.
Yes. And then about 4 months later, COVID.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's a big wrench.
And it was like, what is going on? And, with all the uncertainty and sort of the darkness that I'm sure everyone experienced to some extent.
Yeah.
I kind of was finding that what is it that I really need to do at this time in order to feel grounded? That's what I was seeking.
Yeah.
Because I didn't feel okay and I wasn't sure of anything really.
Yeah.
Including being able to even go visit my mom. My mom's on the East Coast. And no one knew anything.
Right.
I was imagining, are we going to go, sew our own clothing in this boxy. I had all these ideas about we're going to sew our clothes and dye them in plant-based dyes and everyone's going to be monotone. And it just was such a monotone visual in my mind of what could be. And so with that, I just could sense that I needed to go somewhere centered, deeper. And I already had a meditation practice. 2016, I took a course that really gave me a lot of different tools to be able to go to that place.
That's great. I resonate with that a lot. What course did you take?
It's a somatic heart therapy course.
Oh, somatic heart therapy.
So
Very cool.
it's a combination of Reiki, breath work. It's a bit of sound baths as well, but also a lot of different philosophy and there's a lot of different things intertwined into it.
Yeah.
And so that was what I wanted to really get back into, and meet again. I was I want to meet myself there, not just lightly kind of having that practice.
Yeah.
So with that now on my mind, but going through the motions of, because it was still hectic, right? In a sense, it's what is everyone doing? What is next? What's happening? And how do we,
new information was coming up every week.
Yeah.
People were uncertain. And here you were in California when your family and your roots are on the East Coast, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And just feeling really disconnected from everything, myself, family, people. Because also I was still new to California, right?
Yeah, that's
and I
so
had
hard.
moved here with a partner, so then it's also different.
Yeah,
the
totally.
people you had met, it's
through them, and then now it's different. Yeah. You have to find your own people, but then you're in lockdown, and how do you do that?
And eventually I was actually traveling at the time, and I found, this is a bit after COVID, I was traveling a bit, and I said, I need to give it a little more time, and a little more time as in I recognized, because I was going back and forth from New York a lot, and I had an apartment in New York at the time as well. Now I got another apartment and I was back, but even New York wasn't sitting well with me. I was not feeling, I just wasn't feeling settled here nor there. Something was up, as in
an anxiousness
an
or
anxiousness,
a floatiness,
right?
not feeling grounded.
There was a bit of this frenetic energy that I was feeling from within, this turmoil. And I ended up finding the tiny house, and I said, at some point, instead of doing this back and forth and just being physically exhausted and trying to basically my spirit and my body was basically chasing each other. I just felt like I was constantly moving and doing things, and I was quote unquote okay, but I recognized the pattern from previously when I had the reasons why I took the course in 2016 to start when I wasn't okay.
Yeah.
I was I recognize these patterns.
Yes.
Something is just off. I need to center.
Yeah.
So I just made a decision. I said, you know what? New York will always stay. My friends and loved ones are there, of course. But right now, I think what's more important is to get back to me.
Yeah.
Right? Like really just reconnect and I'll go from there.
Yeah.
And that decision felt easier also at the time because I had already, right, gotten rid of everything.
Yeah.
I was traveling very light already. And the tiny house just felt like a great environment because it was close to the ocean, which I absolutely love. I do own a car already, so that's like, easy.
Yeah.
And I just felt like it's a quiet place and I want to just explore it a bit further and I want to see what that's going to be. And so that's how it happened.
Yeah.
It wasn't, I don't know. I think some people imagine this like dramatic story, like suddenly I got rid of all my stuff. And,
Yeah.
I mean, kind of, not really.
But it was like still a very like paced out transition, right? Yeah, coming here with a partner and then the transition of still being kind of bi-coastal and then eventually finding like you just saw Santa Monica and being here, being the place that would make you feel centered.
Uh-oh. The last cookie.
You can get a new box of cookies in as fast as an hour with Walmart Express Delivery.
Are you my guilty self-conscience?
No, I'm the voice offering you promo code EXPRESS for free delivery on your first order.
Hey, who ate my cookies?
You mean, these cookies?
Order now. Welcome to your Walmart. Promotion valid for first express delivery order. $50 minimum subject to availability. Restrictions apply.
The tiny home fascinates me because I feel like I've gone down rabbit holes on YouTube and different things where
For sure.
Yeah, I'm maybe some of it is just I'm a person, I lived in a lot of different cities in my young adulthood and I always was drawn to really small spaces.
Really?
Like
okay.
in San Francisco, I lived in like a 390 square foot apartment. In LA, when I moved here, I was in the arts district, also similarly like drawn to like a small, almost like maybe wanting my home to feel almost like a studio space where it's like simple and clean.
Sure.
But I'm curious, like for you, you've decided on LA, but how did the tiny home like come up as an option?
So I was really, really specifically saying, this is exactly what I want. And, call that manifestation or, putting it out there.
Yeah.
But I was very specific. I said, I don't need a lot of space. Like, and I actually, even on my trip, my friend who was there, Ingrid, like just heard me saying, she's like, that's exactly what you need. And what I was saying, but it was nearly impossible to find. And what that was I don't need a lot of space right now. What I want is a safe place in an environment that's close to nature where it's like very accessible because LA is so large as well.
Spread out, yeah.
And I don't want to have to get in the car immediately and so on and so forth. So that was one thing I specifically was like, if I'm going to be in California, I need to be by the ocean. I would much rather live in a home that has, all the amenities of just what I need, exactly what I need, but an environment that feels soothing and comfortable for me.
Yeah.
I don't need a lot. I just also don't want it to be like scary or run down.
Yes.
I mean, clearly, but like I say that because a lot of these spaces, especially like near the ocean, often
it's a little older.
They can feel a little bit scary in a sense because it's like just
It's older, and I think also there's something about the salt water and the air that makes
everything
a little
break
bit
down.
more.
Yeah, true.
And it has a little bit more of that. It just ages
Rustic,
more quickly and rustic look. Yeah,
good problems, but
Yeah.
Oh, my home is so old from the ocean. It's just rusting everywhere.
I know, right? But this tiny home was located close to the beach.
Oh my God! It was when I saw it, I thought, this can't even be real. I really thought that it was a scam of some sort. Also, the process was a bit long, but I just said, if this is real, then this is what I was looking for.
Yeah.
And what's insane is like there really isn't a lot of options in this format, location-wise, in terms of space-wise. I do have, in total, the interior is very, very small.
Yeah.
It is about 140 or a little bit over, but the exterior space, it ends up being about 480.
Oh, so you have a lot of outdoor space.
Yeah. I have a bit of outdoor space, which is amazing. And it's private, and it's like, it's my own little like dollhouse.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. It's like a dollhouse.
Or a
Yeah.
boat. I actually always say
Yeah,
I feel like
that's
I'm on a
true.
boat, you know,
Yeah.
that doesn't move. And so it seemed obvious to me, and the decision was easy to like sign on.
Yeah.
But then the decision, you know, as I was mentioning earlier, to fully make that my permanent home was through a bit of deeper searching and being like, what do I actually need right now? Like, what am I doing? I'm doing all the things, but what thing do I really need? And I was like, you know, I need to grieve this breakup.
Yeah.
Regardless of how it came upon, it was a very deliberate decision that, you know, I thought a lot about. Yes, absolutely. A lot about. But still, you got to grieve.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's what I noticed. I said, you know what? That's where I'm at. So I need to do that. And I need a safe, comfortable place that's also had all these other benefits. I'm like, I can go to the beach.
Yeah.
It was also going to save me my cost of apartment living in my apartment in New York.
Right.
I could always also go back to New York. That's not, you know, an issue. So I was like, okay.
What do you have to lose? kind of
Yeah,
thing, right?
it just
Yeah.
it felt really natural. And so that's how I made that decision.
Aw, that's so beautiful. Yeah, I mean, I was watching the special, and like I thought it's the special or the CNBC. Yeah, I mean, because it shows the inside of the home, and like you as a designer, I could see. I'm like, okay, she's definitely a designer of the way that things were like decorated. Because even that home in itself, like I'm sure the person you rented it from, they made decisions to like build things a certain way.
Yes.
But the way that you have it, like your selection of how you curated things. And I know going into a tiny home, it's like you would think that you were downsizing, like taking things away. But I'm curious, like what were things that you actually purchased that you found like worked really well for the tiny home that you didn't have when you were living in other spaces?
I really didn't purchase much other than a few key items to help organize.
Yeah. Organization tools basically were the main.
Yeah, like honestly, like inside a certain cabinet, I wanted an extra shelf, a tier. So I bought tiered shelves. I guess I ordered some drawer organizing pouches, and I have in my vanity this like wire basket that I searched for months for. Specifically, I was almost about to make a custom one.
Wow. Yeah.
Ended up finding it. And then a hanging rack, honestly, that like is expandable.
Yeah.
That was really it. And I think if anything, it's like I downsized and upgraded in the sense of like, I've always liked good tools.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like I love scissors. It's a thing. I love cutting tools.
Yeah.
Just so useful. And I just ended up getting even more quality, you know, tools in that sense.
Yes.
But I really don't need much. So there was really not much more that I needed to purchase, really.
Yeah. I really like that. I think it's when you're thinking about like taking away so much of the excess of things and then the few things that you have, then investing more and upgrading them, which is totally goes in line with your ethos of essentialism.
Yes.
Which now I want to kind of talk about your way of thinking about essentialism, and you've, you know, exercised that through your living situation, but like how else has it permeated in other aspects of your life? Maybe we can start by talking about like your work schedule. I'm fascinated because I love design work, and I think design as a practice is so fascinating. So as a designer and in the work that you do, how do you feel like you exercise essentialism?
Great question. I think essentialism to me is not just about this pursuit of having less is what, you know, essentialism is, but it's not about like the physical objects. It's not just about the physical objects. It's also really a mindset in how you are deliberately choosing everything in your life, the decisions, and, you know, how you're setting your intentions in order to do that.
Yeah.
So it's really an overall mindset. And so I think the question about like work or work schedule, it's actually really the same even with my personal life or just life decisions, like everyday daily decisions. If it's not, and maybe this is oversimplified, but if it's not essential to my priorities, it's just a no. You just don't participate or do that.
How would you define like essential in this context?
Priorities. So how do you know what your priorities are? You have to think about what your intentions are and what it is that you're ultimately trying to achieve. And that could be as simple as like, today I'm trying to achieve a balance within my week of I don't know, get my workout in, connect with some friends, and get this other thing done. Whatever it is, if it's not supporting that cause, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. Do you set, are your intentions something that you set, at the beginning of each day, at the beginning of each week? Or how do you kind of go about thinking about your intentions?
Okay. So I know that there's a lot of intention setting exercises, right? Yeah. But for me, I think when I talk about intention, it's more about what my purpose ultimately is and how the steps I'm taking are intentionally supporting that goal. Is it aligned with getting closer to that, or is it off? Is it off that alignment?
Yeah.
Right? And it also has a lot to do with how I observe my energy. I'm a very, maybe hyper is not the right word. I have a lot of energy.
Yeah.
Actually. So I've had to practice a lot in order to contain that in a sense. Contain maybe is not the right word. To observe it.
Yeah, yeah. I know, I was like, you have such a calm demeanor about you.
And a lot of that exercise and practice has been in order to be more thoughtful about what I am choosing, because that is ultimately how my life is going to unfold.
Yeah.
So, sorry, I didn't answer your question.
No, it's okay.
How do I set my intentions? It's really being connected and aligned with that and making sure that I have clarity on that bigger thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Because if you don't know what that is,
right,
and that can also change, for sure, for some people, I'm sure, or even for me, there's different moments of different parts that can change, that get there. But if you don't know this, everything is just honestly kind of chaos, in my opinion. You're kind of just doing and going.
Yeah.
And if you don't know what this is or giving yourself the time to think about it, how are you going to even know that you're getting closer to this?
To the end goal. Yeah. That is a very, very good point. Yeah. I asked a very, I guess, simple question, but in order to answer that question, you have to first know, to your point, what is your deeper goal or what is your deeper intention?
Exactly. Yes.
And then it's you wake up in the morning and you set your work day, and every decision that you make should be in support of that bigger goal.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
So maybe we can do an exercise where I'm curious, today, what was your day like today? You got up in the morning, and how did you decide on your, what your day was going to look like?
Yes. Okay. So today, because I'm coming to meet you, which I had a lot of energy and thoughts about already yesterday, I told myself in the morning, I'm not going to set too many things up, but I have some options, right? So I had loose outlines of what I could do. But what I ultimately ended up deciding was, instead of doing the work thing and taking some calls and doing this kind of energy work, I said, I really want to be in a centered and grounded place before meeting you and having a conversation. So what that led to was going to do contrast therapy. I love ice baths.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And sauna. So I did that for an hour in total. And then today was the first time I've done it immediately after. I did a float right after for 60 minutes.
I have been wanting to check one of those things out. Yeah. Did you do the contrast therapy at a place, or was it at your home?
Yeah, I did it at a studio, a wellness studio, and they also had a float. So today I was
perfect.
I've never done them back to back that way, but I was all right. And I think it was the perfect morning for me in order to just have clarity and feel, lightweight.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's what I did today, but that's not every day.
Yeah. No, thanks for sure. I liked that you said you woke up and you had options.
Yes.
Because I think oftentimes when we're trying to think about planning out our days, we get either very structured or we just maybe don't have anything planned at all.
Oh, okay.
Right? And so it's a nice happy medium when you're saying have, structure and have things, but give yourself the options. If you wake up and you are in a different mood, or if in that moment you want something different, it's not like I have, this like rigid thing that I have to follow.
Yeah. I'm very disciplined, but I think what I've learned is that I can only be the best at certain tasks if I'm in the right state mentally and physically.
Yes. Yeah.
So even though, I could work forever, right? There's so much to do and create and learn, but sometimes that might not be what I'm going to be the most successful at. So if I can recognize that first, I can be efficient in selecting what is going to be the best thing for me to be productive that day. If that makes sense. I'd rather use my time in that way and be specific about actually being productive than kind of, doing things halfway. Because I'm not in the energy or mindset.
Yes.
And of course there's, at times things you have to get through, but balancing it is, I feel like, ultimately the way to be most efficient.
Yeah.
But I am very intense when you actually look at in terms of scheduling and stuff.
Yeah.
But on days like this, it takes a certain preparation for me to feel focused. So I did that.
Got it. Yeah. Actually, I'm curious. So like when you approach like a design project or like what's like an example of another day, like maybe something that's like opposite of today.
First thing in the morning, I do a meditation no matter what. And then immediately I'll usually go to the gym. I get in some movement.
Yeah.
And I also really like intense workouts where you ultimately have to get into a meditative state because it is so difficult.
You have to be fully focused to get
Fully
there.
focused, yeah. Martial arts, like CrossFit, I like intense workouts like that because it forces you to be right there.
Yeah.
Right? Very present. And then immediately I'll just get ready, or sometimes even at the gym, depending on the day. And then I dive right into my day. And I actually also don't eat until noon. So that also saves a lot of time.
Yeah. Is it intermittent fasting that you practice?
Yeah, it's flexible at times. I'm flexible with it, but yes. And that helps me get into the day. I also schedule things like video calls or Zoom calls. I like to really put them all together into one day if possible. It's something that takes like a different type of energy for me.
Yeah.
And I also don't enjoy it as much as real life connection.
Yes, same.
So I try to get through that. So those are kind of the things in the beginning of the week that I'll get through. So then I can focus and really get into, an inspired and creative mode where I can get into flow, hopefully, and get a lot more done. So
I like that. Yeah, you're grouping kind of the tasks together, and separating kind of like calls versus like heads down work time.
Yeah, like it's sort of exerting energy versus exerting energy like from inward and getting into flow. So I kind of see it as those two different types of activities.
Yeah. It's very apparent that you are very in tune with like your own state when you're thinking about setting up your schedule and your to-do list, your work state, which I really, really like, because I think that so oftentimes we can go, it's too easy in today's world where you can always be working to just like not think about your mental, emotional, or like state and just kind of push through. But your own, where you are plays such a big role in your ability to execute on that. So love that message. How about essentialism in your relationships?
Are you quality, functional, and versatile? If not, then no. Not qualified.
Yeah. That is actually like a good,
it's kind of funny, right? Yeah. I think that from a lot of this work and time I've spent in exploring what it is that I truly need and, connecting with my values and doing all this work.
Yeah.
I think the priorities and what I seek has become so clear that it feels really easy.
So you just have your own barometer because if you're in tune with what is important to you and how you're feeling, you can just kind of sense like, this is a person worth my time, or I should get coffee with this person, or maybe I shouldn't, kind of thing.
It's really clear. And so it's easy, but it's hard, right?
Yeah.
So it's simple, but it's now more complex in a sense because it's so specific.
Yeah.
I think the priorities in what I value have really become highlighted for what I know I want my life to be with a life partner.
Yeah. How like, because I feel like I'm kind of working through some of that myself as well. And I have been, like, I still do therapy regularly. So, like, once a week, I feel like when I talk things out, it helps me, like, process and put things together.
Sure.
Journaling, I've been saying I'm going to work on it. I haven't been as consistent with that, but it helps as well. But I'm curious what other practices you did to help you feel like, especially after a breakup and thinking about, like, your future partner, what helped you kind of figure out what you're looking for?
I think it's a lot of this, connection here, really. So it is my meditation practice or meditative practices to become still and centered that's kind of given me more answers, knowing, like you just have this knowing now and clarity. It just brings you to a place of clarity, like this silence.
Yeah.
And like silence is actually so profoundly loud in a sense when you can get to that place.
Yeah.
And that's been really beautiful for me to experience because I am a very extroverted person socially. I love being around people, being, a part of a community and doing a lot. I love to do. But the reality is being able to disperse that energy intentionally has really changed all of that in terms of clarity and really having life unfold exactly as I really truly want to, as opposed to just kind of going with the way that the energy is just kind of being, again, like put out from myself, if that makes sense.
I'm curious, like, because I feel like some, people say that you'll know within a couple of seconds, like, how you vibe with a person. And especially when it comes with like dating and like everything's so like digital nowadays. Are you someone who like prefers like in-person meetings or like are you on apps at all? Hopefully that's like not too private to ask.
No, I love it. I'm not online dating. I have tried. I'm not online dating. I definitely prefer in person.
Yeah.
Because you just don't sense the same amount and level of nuance, within a person and their movements and language.
Yeah.
Right? When you meet someone online, and everyone is amazing online.
Right. That's true.
Right?
That's true. Everyone can be amazing online.
Everyone is the boss of something and looks fabulous and, doing cool things. And that's great too. That's a part of it. But I have chosen specifically to not do online dating because it doesn't feel aligned with me right now.
Yeah.
And that can change.
Do you have like an active like way you're trying to meet people in dating? Or is that maybe like not even a focus right now?
No, I mean, I'm dating.
Oh, yeah.
It's funny though, because it feels like that to me is just an exercise of observation. I'll go out, right? Like, someone asked me out and good times. Like, let's see, let's go. Let's let's do things. But no one right now in my life has sparked enough interest or it's not interest, sorry, inspiration for me to commit all of my time is probably what I should say.
I like
what I want to say.
Yeah,
sorry.
I like that you focused on inspiration. I think when looking for a partner, it can be very easy to like get so wrapped up in all different things to be looking for, but back to your kind of like ethos of essentialism and being able to figure out in your core like what should tell you to move forward with a person or not, or with a task or not. It's like, does it inspire you?
Yeah. I've become a lot gentler with how I observe as well. Everyone has this like checklist in a sense.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
When you're dating or looking
it's
or
hard
seeking,
to not. It's so like heady with
they need to be this, that. But the reality is, of course, you have to have your standards and your priorities, but it's not going to show up as a checklist.
Yeah.
And there's no way for you to know until you've spent the time and experienced it. And some things you cannot experience until it's there. So being able to see overall someone's values and how they actually take action to solve for challenges, how do they, resolve conflicts in a sense, or what do they value and how do they respond to the world or react? What are they supportive of? Like, are they actually doing their own work of their own growth, but also actually supportive of someone else's growth?
Yeah.
Do they actually have clarity so that their intentions are being moved for. Like, are they taking actions towards their intention because they have clarity?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
If you don't, you're probably just doing again, like previously. You're just
Yes.
going and doing and just kind of
with no actual center or goal
Sure.
or direction, strong
Yeah.
direction. Yeah.
Yeah, and whatever that is, that's also great. Everyone has their own
way to do things.
Exactly. And I love that.
Yeah.
And so that's your choice, but I think whatever those things are, I think having clarity in that, being able to have the awareness and living through clarity is really all I could ask for.
Yeah.
And what I look for, I guess. Yeah.
Llévate más de lo que esperas todos los días con el nuevo McValue en McDonald's. Ahora puedes comprar uno y sumarle otro por $1. Así que cuando tu equipo favorito enfrente a sus rivales, enfrenta tus antojos con $5 Meal Deals. Y si estás corriendo para alcanzar el desayuno, corre al app para llevarte ofertas antes del cutoff. Tú decides, y con McValue, tu decisión siempre rinde más. Precios y participación pueden variar. BOGO $1 válido para un producto de igual o menor valor. Debe estar registrado en Rewards para ofertas en el app.
So you shared kind of is it the somatic heart meditation course that you did
Yes.
that really helped you arrive at this like ethos of essentialism?
Yes.
How do you think your culture has played a role in the way that you look at things, in the way that you define essentialism?
I think there's aspects that are very aligned naturally, being thoughtful about what actions you take. And I'm doing this right now, this hand gesture, but for instance, I'm Korean. It's something I've always been told as I was young is whenever you go to someone's house and you take your shoes off, you have to put them neatly. Don't just take them off and, you know what I mean? Just like walk away. And it's like, it was never a question or a doubt, but I did ask at some point, why is that?
Yeah.
It's to show respect for the person, not only inviting you into your home, but also to show that you're being cautious and careful overall, right?
Yeah.
And it's a sign of respect in certain ways, like you're taking your time. And there's a lot of other kind of interesting things like that, like rules in a sense.
Yeah.
Like never walking over someone's feet. I don't know if you know about that one because
I hadn't heard of
Koreans can sit on the floor often, and if someone has their legs out because they're relaxing, like you don't climb over someone's feet. It doesn't matter if there's no way around. You say excuse me or go over, and that's also like just disrespectful to kind of walk over someone. And
I see.
So there's all these like kind of small gestures and rules, and as I've gotten older, I've observed that they're not just kind of weird, quirky things or superstitious even. It's all about presence and thoughtfulness, right? Make eye contact when you speak to someone or look at someone. At least in Korean culture, that's a sign of respect and presence. There's so many different cultures with different things about eye contact.
Yeah.
But, that. Anyways, many other practices. And so I think in that sense it's aligned, but there's also a lot of things that are the complete opposite in what I am doing.
Yeah.
Absolutely, right?
I'm curious, actually. I didn't think about that you would, but curious to hear about
like
that.
moving into a tiny house, like what? Like, what are you doing?
Wait, is it really like very counter to?
Well, yes, like as a first generation Korean, it's of course still embedded within the culture as much as my parents are very open-minded and have always been very supportive of even me going to design school. That's not typical, right? I have a lot of friends in my generation that actually got into design school and were not allowed to go.
Ah, I see.
So that already is like step one of
Yeah.
it being different. But to basically go the opposite direction of I'm going to move into a smaller space, do my own thing, sit on the floor, meditate, and
Now that you set it up that way, I think my parents have done a very good job of making me feel supported. So I'm like, oh, this is not a different life to. But you're right. It is. If it's about kind of seeking, you come to a different country and you want to seek to gain more and more, like in excess, not about being like extra, but maybe that was just the simplified of going for bigger and more. And
sure, or our parents' ideas of what is security and safety. Right.
Yes. Yeah.
So. Yeah, in that sense, I think that it is the opposite. But for me, what's been really incredible is it's given me the opportunity to be more connected with my mom and explaining and describing what and why I feel the way I do in the actions I'm taking.
I like that. So because you've gone in a different quote unquote direction, it's not forced is maybe the poor word choice, but
sure.
It's allowed like this connection where you do have to communicate with her more. And so you're able to kind of connect and for her to understand better.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's acceptance. I think she's so accepting overall. I'm sure mom wants me to already have multiple children with a backyard and, sort of the typical idea, but we've become so close through a lot of the different life challenges we've been through together as well.
Yeah.
Losing my dad and like all these different aspects. And so with that, a lot of gentleness has surfaced and communication too, and culturally we don't communicate emotions. It was extremely difficult to go through the process of death. And that's why it took me years before I even recognized I wasn't okay. And that's when I took the somatic art therapy course and, went through the grieving process and learned these tools. And I think that was a huge gift to face that challenge, because otherwise I don't know that I would have been able to seek these tools even, because it's just culturally so contained.
Right.
We don't talk about our emotions.
Yeah.
You don't say I love you. You do it through action.
Right.
It's all very action based. Like, well, I don't need to say it. I'm doing these things for you. We did all these things to raise you and send you to school and etc. As well as I almost feel like there isn't even language that I was exposed to express emotions in Korean culture.
Right.
I'm fluent in Korean, but I've never really heard language around how to express those
your
things.
feelings and things.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I've now learned, again, more ways to connect with my mom because I've been allowed to seek and communicate with her about those different depths.
Yeah. Does your mom speak a little bit of English, or how does the language work with your communication?
My mom understands English. She chooses not to speak English, so it's fully Korean, but I am very fluent. I don't know why I'm saying very fluent, because I'm saying very fluent just because with her, even sometimes she's like, how do you know those words?
Oh, she's surprised by your...
Yeah. And I think it was also a bit instinctive because even growing up, because her English she didn't feel confident about the language barrier.
Yeah.
I think I just spoke Korean and knew that I just needed to. It was like a survival skill.
Right.
It's interesting because I'm not naturally good at language.
Oh.
Because they say that people that are good at language can kind of learn many languages.
Yeah.
It's not the case here, but my Korean is fluent for sure.
Yeah. So. Well, kind of going back to just your talking about the hardships that you experienced, it's so beautiful that something that is challenging actually is what impacted your current, like the way that you look at the world and the way that you live. And it seems like you've achieved this essentialist kind of way of being. So I just wanted to thank you for sharing all of that and kind of bring it back around to like understanding like why you're able to be in this space that you are right now. It's because you've been pushed and challenged, right? And just like you said with your mother and with the culture of, because of not being maybe not living life the way, quote unquote, that she might have wanted initially in some way, that you've been able to then like build something beautiful out of that, which is having a stronger connection and everything. So bringing it back to this essentialist way of thinking, what are some, and this is maybe seems like a little bit of a divergence, but I just love the way that you think about things and the way that you talk about life. And
thank you.
What are some like podcasts or people, publications, what things do you generally consume that help support this kind of like essentialist ethos and mindset that you have?
Sure. There's a lot. I'll name a few top podcasts, and of course it's on rotation depending on my mode.
Yeah, totally.
I love the Rich Roll podcast. Is really
Rich Roll's great, yeah.
Stephen Bartlett's podcast, Diary of a CEO, can be a little bit higher energy at times, depending on who he's interviewing, but that also I find very educational. Of course, Huberman Labs is just very fact and science-based, which is helpful, but I'm not always in the mood to listen to that level of information.
Very dense. Yeah,
yes.
really dense.
Yes. A design podcast, I like 99% Invisible. Really nice overall. You can also pick it up kind of at any point and gain something. There's a lot of different design topics that are very rare to come by. So I really like, I really like that one. Books, though, I think that if someone is interested in getting introduced to meditation or sort of curious, meditation curious.
Yeah.
I always suggest Why Buddhism is True, Robert Wright, because it breaks it down in such a easily digestible way. It's light. It's not too dense of a book, and also he just has such a great sense of humor, and I think that's a great book to start. I also, there's so many different topics, but I also, if someone is interested in essentialism in itself, Greg McKeown has a couple books out. He breaks it down very nicely in categories, really talking about the mindset. It's not really about organizing or objects like a Marie Condo.
Oh, I like that. You learn basically the theory and the way to think about it.
Yes, he breaks it down into different categories. I think those would be my initial top suggestions.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. Before we end today's episode, Sung, I have to ask, when I saw your special about your living space, you had mentioned at the end of it that you were thinking about building a community of tiny homes. I am selfishly and personally curious, so I want to ask about that.
Yes. So just this week, I've signed to partner with a development group.
Oh my gosh.
To design and develop affordable housing that's better designed, that has resources, that's going to help build community in different areas of LA where you would actually want to live.
Very cool.
Smaller, compact homes, but better designed.
Yeah.
With more resources and a space that you should want to live in and stay. So that happened this week. So I am very excited. So in a sense, they're not individual, tiny homes, but it is definitely in the same exact alignment of building a community of better designed homes for
that is so cool. I mean, I hopefully you'll be sharing that on your online. So definitely follow Sung for that journey. I know I will be. That is awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Yes.
I really enjoyed today's conversation, and I know that our listeners are gonna love learning about essentialism or like being inspired. I think just knowing the way that you think about things, and if anyone is curious to follow you, where can they find you online?
My Instagram. Sungsation. I also have a YouTube channel that I started, youtube.com/SungYooQuietude.
Sung Yoo Quietude. Love that.
Some different topics there, and TikTok the same too. So
TikTok as well. Great. Thanks, Sung.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks again for listening. Before we close out today's episode, a reminder that if you're interested in coming to Bali with me this September, you can check out the trip details in the show notes. It'll be my first time and also my birthday gift to myself this year. So maybe if you are also a September birthday, we can celebrate together. Or if not, it's just a great opportunity to visit Bali and not have to do any of the planning. I am working with Chova Trip, who is taking care of all of the logistics for us. All we have to do is book our flight. You can find more details about the trip in the show notes, and you can also follow me on Instagram, where I'll be giving updates as the trip approaches. If there are certain topics you want to hear me cover, please either leave a comment on this episode on Spotify, on the post on Instagram, or DM me on Instagram. Once again, this is your host, Janet. I can also be found on Asian Boss Girl, the podcast for the modern-day Asian American woman, with my good friends Helen and Mel, who are also hosting their own shows, which you can catch on the same feed, new episodes every Tuesday. You can follow ABG on Instagram at Asian Boss Girl, and me, Janet, at Janet W. That's Janet, the word double, and the letter U.